And Knuckles.
ReSaurus Company Incorporated was responsible for the very first Sonic the Hedgehog action figures. Yes, the first. Everything released before ReSaurus' run with Sonic were usually limited in articulation, had they any at all. This blessing of a company, unfortunately, only gave us 2 series of their Sonic line, because sadly, after that second series would release, ReSaurus would go out of business in 2001. The 2 series of Sonic Adventure figures featured Sonic, Tails, plus a revised version of Tails, don't know what the difference is, Ring! And what appears to be more centered looking eyes. Alright, makes sense.
And Knuckles.
Series 2 would go on to feature Sonic skiing, Amy, Big the Cat, and one of my personal holy grails, E102 Gamma. 2 11-inch Sonic figures were made, one by itself, the other came with a talking base, quote-unquote, which is what we're going to be talking about today. Also, apparently only 20,000 of these were made according to this article over here, so that's pretty cool.
And Knuckles.
So Big Boy Sonic over here is quite the looker from far away. He looks pretty good up close too, but you can kind of tell when he was made when you look at him up close. Let's take a look. You can see some mild overlapping paint in some areas. You'll see it mostly in the eyes area where the white kind of overtakes some of the blue and tan colors that ReSaurus used on this guy. You will also see it to some variation around the nose. And again, you'll see a whole bunch of splooches of different paint along the eyes and the blue and the tan colors, all that other stuff. Granted, I don't think that's a problem. In fact, I think that's something that still exists today. But for the most part, I think the rest of this is honestly pretty dang good. I think the majority of this figure was cast in a blue plastic, and then just kind of had everything else painted on afterwards. And I also think it's a safe bet that there are some pieces that were just molded in the color that we see them in on the figure. But for the most part, as far as paint goes, I think this is pretty solid, especially the eyes. I love how the eyes were done, and they were done so cleanly as well. Although, the more you look at it, they do look somewhat lopsided, and as you can see, the one eye over here is definitely closer to Sonic's mouth face region than the other one is, but I just like how near perfect the eyes look. ReSaurus did a damn good job because these almost look drawn on to an extent. Or printed on, rather. I mean, I don't think they're actual decals or anything like that. But hey, it is what it is. Nothing of crazy notage here, but Sonic's grill is pretty dang good. There's no paint on the back of Sonic's head over here, but his swooshed back quills over here just look so very cool. And the even nicer thing over here is that there is no seams on Sonic's head. This is all one gigantic piece. So there won't be any weird uncanny valley stuff lingering around on the front, side, or back of his head. Which again, that's a huge friggin' plus. And again, the detail, the variation, being able to tell one quill from another just by these little folds over here, or whatever you want to call them. Just so simple, yet so well done. And it almost looks like this is translucent blue plastic when you look at it from this angle. I believe the same material was used for the quills on his back over here as well. Meanwhile, his tail and body are a harder plastic, and you can actually see the seam over here where they put the 2 pieces together. A seam which isn't at all visible from the front or even the side when looking at the figure from a distance. Now that's how you properly manage some seamage on a figure, dude. Granted, it's not always that easy, I know, sometimes you just can't get rid of seams, but for its time, a friggin' one there, ReSaurus. Taking a look at Sonic's shoes over here, much like his gloves, the whites on here have, aged. They've certainly yellowed over time. I've had this figure for a very, very long time. But the minor paint and the minor detail on them still speak something beautiful. We got the very simple detail for the buckles, the straps, the socks, and even the bending of the shoe over here. It's just simple. It's not busy, is a good way to put it. And there's even going to be some cool details on the back of Sonic's shoes as well. Had ReSaurus lasted a little bit longer and actually have been able to release some Sonic Adventure 2 figures, I bet they absolutely would have killed Sonic's soap shoes. Oh my god. And as you can see with this shoe here, there is going to be detail on the bottom of Sonic's shoes. They're not going to be flat and nothingness, as further shown here on the bottom of both of Sonic's feet. Yeah, the shoes were handled beautifully. Now let's take a look at the hands. Or gloves, rather, whatever have you. I don't know why specifically this hand was turned into a finger bang hand. I don't know if this was based off of key artwork or something like that, but the detail on the fingers and all that stuff, it all looks really nice. Granted, you're really not going to see much simply because they are gloves, but damn, this just looks good. I wonder if they were working with any of the 3D models from the game. Same amount of praise for the open hand over here. Again, a lot of really nice detail. Most of it is smoothened out, but the fingers, the definition, the bends in the glove, it's all nice. Granted, you really don't need to go all out on something like gloves, but the fact that they look as nice as they do, yet again, it's just cool. It's impressive. I like it. The only issue I really have with the paint is going to be on the arms, where you can see that the tan color is really starting to fade and that blue is kind of poking through. Hilariously enough, all that's happening on Sonic's pits. It is unfortunately going to be present on the tops of his shoulder blades as well, but honestly, if you have the thing posed, you're really not going to see these that much. Yeah, I don't know what the heck was going on here, but again, I really can't complain too much, because at the end of the day, this could have been a lot friggin' worse. So as far as paint and detail goes, I'm gonna give this guy 2 solid stars. I don't know exactly how this was made in the factory, whether it was hand painted, machine painted, or whatever, but the fact that it looks as clean as it does, even all these years later, even with the aged white plastic, this is still a total win. This was also my very first Sonic the Hedgehog figure, so I was spoiled right from the friggin' get-go. Because every figure that I would get after this would have to answer to this. And it's like, damn, that's just not fair. Anyway, let's take a look at Sonic's one and only accessory.
And Knuckles.
That being this golden quote-unquote base. Yeah, there's no peg on here that you can peg Sonic into so he can stand on it. This is just a gimmick, but it's a very nice gimmick. I really love Sonic's design for the Adventure series. Yeah, they made them all wacky and cool and whoa! I only noticed it just now, but you can actually see Sonic's other eye on the side of his one giant eyeball. They just captured the likeness so very well. And if you were wondering, yes, this absolutely does still work. Let's give it a shot.
Oh yeah!
Oh yeah.
This is happening!
Indeed.
Ready to roll, champ? Let's go!
No. Ah yes, the days of Ryan Drummond being the voice of Sonic the Hedgehog. Wasn't around for too long, but for what he did, he was my Sonic, essentially. Yeah, I grew up with Sonic Sat AM and everything, but Ryan Drummond, at that point in time, was just absolutely Sonic the Hedgehog to me. Nobody could be better. Nowadays, we have the likes of Roger Craig Smith, Ben Schwartz, and the newest addition to the Sonic roster, Devin Mack. And that one little clip that he did on YouTube and that we hear of him in the trailers for Sonic Prime is just perfect. So as far as articulation goes, you can pretty much go all the way around at the head. It's very, very squeaky. The arms, I'm pretty sure, yeah, they can go all the way around. You do kind of have to move them out of the way of his ears and his hands and such. They can go up that far and back down that far. Very, very nice. We're also going to get a swivel at the wrist over here. Feel that squeak? You hear that squeak? The legs can kick up about that far and back pretty dang far. In fact, the whole reason why the legs have these marks on them is because I always had Sonic in a running pose. Basically, he was like this on a shelf for, I want to say, a good 12 years. So yeah, that's my fault. Plus, if you can't get Sonic the Hedgehog, the fastest being alive, into a running pose, you've done something wrong. The last little bit of articulation will be at the ankles, where you can do a full swivel. If this were any other kind of figure, I'd be so worried about doing this right now. The articulation is basic at best, but for the time we really didn't have movable Sonic the Hedgehog figures, like I said at the beginning of the video. I think the most we got was maybe a movable head and maybe movable arms. The legs, I feel like, were either always molded to something that looked like smoke, so it looked like Sonic was running, and I faintly remember Sonic being on a motorcycle and going on a track through a loop or something like that. I think the legs and arms are movable on that. I think they needed to be. Future Rob put a picture up in there so I can remember the days of yore. Thank you. So despite the basic articulation, I'm still going to give this guy a solid freaking star. Now we can move on to the size comparisons. For its time, hell, even today, ReSaurus were on the way to true greatness, and very much ahead of the curve by being the curve. Articulated Sonic figures based on Sonic's first huge adventure in 3D? Come on, man! The representation of Sonic and friends would have been astronomical at that point in time, and I have no doubt that those figures would have been a huge deal today, more than they already are since everything ReSaurus is just so damn rare. But thankfully, we do have the likes of Jack Specific dropping quality Sonic the Hedgehog figures on the regular. I think this was a beautiful first step for Sonic the Hedgehog action figures, and I'm really bummed that we never got Shadow, Rouge, Vector, or anybody for that matter, because some of those were absolutely planned. Can you imagine a Shadow the Hedgehog figure at this size? Oh my god. But anyway, that's enough out of me. I have been ShinRobjira. I do so hope you enjoyed this review. And for anybody wondering, I have been looking into some of the Jack specific stuff for Sonic, and there are a few figures that I do want to pick up. So believe me, it's something I'm looking into. With how much Godzilla stuff that comes out, it's probably going to be very sparingly, but if you enjoy the Sonic the Hedgehog content, I've got something coming for you in the future. But anyway, goodbye, good morrow, good whatever. Open your heart because it's gonna be alright, something like that. Now it's time for me to become one with the Master Emerald because the Emerald's power allows me to feel. Or something like that, I don't fucking know. Goodbye.
And Knuckles. Okay, that's like, what, 5 takes? That's probably fine.